member.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great cast on the day. I am joined by CLG Dardoch after their victory over Cloud9 to start things off on the split. A pretty intense best of 3 to start things off. Kind of don't have to go through the whole game, but kind of walk me through the intensity. What was the communication to bring it back into Chronologic Gaming's favor?
I guess we were just kind of talking about how to, or we were just playing around manipulating the mini waves when we had inhibitors down, but we didn't take into account that 80 Kennen could just, I guess, be a stand-in Ashe at the end of the game. He was just kind of killing us all. But yeah, we played well as a team and we won.
And how was it coming over to Chronologic Gaming? Was it kind of plug and play for you? Did it take a bit, or was the communication right there with the team from the get-go?
Well, we have a lot of vocal members, and we're an all English-speaking team, so there's no, language barrier we have to get over at the beginning of the split like other teams I've been on. So right from the get-go, it was like a lot of communication, and we were just kind of nitpicking good and bad communication out of that huge communication pool that we have.
And coming into this season, previously you've kind of had this aura, this discussion of composure that would follow you around. How are you going to nip that in the butt? How are you going to keep Dardoch at a top level of play and continuing to win with Chronologic Gaming?
I guess the difference is that I'm being held more accountable on this team, where that stuff doesn't really fly with Zach or with Tony or anybody on the team. They're just like, I don't like you doing this, stop. And it's, all right, my bad, bro.
All right, well, nip in the butt like that, it's going to be over quick. So, you guys play Team Liquid tomorrow. Is it going to be another victory? How do you feel playing against that roster again?
Yeah, we're going to win. And I don't feel scared at all. It's whatever.
All right, there you have it. Dardoch and Chronologic Gaming pulling out the first win of the split over Cloud9. We're going to throw it to the analyst desk to break down the rest of that game.
Thank you very much, Riv. The first W does go to Chronologic Gaming in a 2-1 victory over Cloud9. But referencing this interview here that we just saw with Dardoch, he talked about that transition from Immortals to CLG and the communication barriers not being there, which he's had to deal with in the past.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking for Dardoch, because we talked about this is the split for him to really define himself or redefine himself, because he's always been on teams that have a rookie that he has frustrations trying to teach somebody else the game. Now he's with a bunch of veterans. And he's always been on mixed language teams that have Korean speakers on it. Now he's on an all English speaking team. There's no excuses for him. His play has to speak for itself. Today wasn't really his best day, but it did look a little more team-focused and team-centric than we had seen from the past for him. So I'm really excited to watch him going forward on CLG.
And to that end, I mean, this game, especially here in Game 3, was incredibly back and forth, right? And so neither of these teams looked extraordinarily polished here on day 1, week 1 of the North American LCS. But as we dive into this third game and look at this CLG victory, I want to identify the strategic differences between the compositions and the win conditions that we can tie to each of them as we then see them play out throughout the game. So let's dive right into this. Help break it down for me. C9's comp, CLG's comp.
All right, we'll start with C9. C9's a lot of pick potential here. The big part of this is they have Charm, and they also have gap closers, as well as a Lulu to stop engages or pick people, and the Ashe Arrow to start things off. So you're looking at something that's like a 4-1 split push with the Kennen. But what happens for Chronologic Gaming is this is a tempo-based composition. They will use Bard portals and they will use Aurelion Sol to get across the map faster and out-rotate you. So they use tempo to their advantage, and they also have a tank against a tankless composition. So they want to have either fights that are in their favor in terms of numbers advantage by quickly rotating, or they want to just straight up 5v5 team fight this composition. And so I think the big thing here to watch out for is you want to split push as Kennen, but you can't do that against Aurelion Sol or Bard because you'll get caught out and you'll get picked off very quickly. We saw it towards the end where he could do that a little bit, but there are no objectives for them to capitalize on Cloud9's side.
All right, it's a fun response to what would normally create a lot of map-wide pressure in a 4-1 split to say, we won't let you do that because 1, we can collapse on you crazy fast, or 2, we as 5 can always get to another lane faster than you and put pressure on a single objective.
Yeah, and I love that this is really comfort for CLG. Dardoch's Lee Sin, Aurelion Sol for Huhi. You also have Stixxay's Caitlyn, which is one of his top 2 champions that he's known for. And then you have Aframu's Bard. This is just a great composition across the board for them that I think really helps CLG's style. And we've known them to be a team that loves to play the map. Now they can outplay the map with this tempo.
And so here's where we're getting into the gameplay itself. We saw these two styles really clashing because CLG first to every objective, right? They were dictating the pace of the game, and Cloud9 forced to be reactive. We saw that right at 9 minutes. The Baron steal, or not Baron steal, the Dragon steal that comes through contracts. I mean, this is just a funny interaction, but once again, again, it's CLG starting the objective.
Yeah, last number you see is 513. Smite is 510. The Hunter's Talisman does 3 to 4 damage. It doesn't do the full 5 because the dragon actually has some magic resistance on it, so it's just barely, literally just a single-digit number that mattered there, and that was huge. But I want to go back to your point about CLG getting there first, because Cloud9 were up in gold. CLG were first to Rift Herald, first 3 Drakes, and they also were able to get First Blood, and yeah, they were able to get some kills across the map. But the big part there is they were always the ones making the play, and even though they were down in gold, they still had map pressure.
All right, let's jump ahead to another fight, 33 minutes into the game. A 4-for-0 for CLG in the jungle here, once again showcasing the prowess of their 5v5.
Yeah, and you saw right there, the Ash Arrow looking for a pick, the Charm coming out looking for a pick. C9, that's how they want to play the comp. They finally got it together, but they're grouped as 5. They have no split push pressure here. And so CLG just disengage, say, all right, let's force you down mid to make a decision here. You either start the Baron with no tank, so somebody's going to take some damage, or if they push out mid, get priority, and flank.
Now, your pick tools are gone. Our chase tools are still around, so we're going to catch you up here in the jungle and start our own fight.
Exactly. Catch them with the Bard ultimate there, and then the Aurelion Soul for the chase down, the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, as well as just all the damage to come through. This is a big team fight for CLG. And they got to push out the mid first, and they got to take the fight. And this is really,
there's
honestly,
nothing more depressing than being on the losing end of Aurelion Soul fight, because you can't get away. It just feels helpless, and we saw every single summoner spell used by C9 in that fight, and yet all of them but Ray die. So, I mean, a big fight win for CLG there, but again, it seemed like in that moment, C9 didn't correctly identify, once again, their win conditions. They took the stab at it, and then didn't realize without these tools, we need to get out of here and do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's so hard, though, for C9 to actually function in terms of this composition against the one that Counterlogic Gaming did. Because like I said, you want to split push this Kennen, but you always have to watch out for the ultimate of the engage of the Bard onto your 4-man unit to start a fight, for the Aurelion Soul to roam and actually push out and get to where the Kennen is. So there's all these things you have to balance, and it really sucks. And you can even see, like, Cloud9 struggle with that, because CLG had control of all the objectives. I talked about the 4, and they got the first Baron by sneaking it as well by playing the map better.
I mean, the one time we did see the split set up, even as Ray was being a mechanical god in the bot lane, all of CLG was able to rotate down to the bot lane and eventually kill him, while C9 was trying to do the same thing. They just simply didn't get there in time. CLG gets advantage. One more team fight to take a look at, 35-30 into the game in the mid lane. 3-for-1. This, once again, C9 overreaching, where it doesn't feel like this is where their comp excels.
Yeah, you actually had Stixay dead ahead of time, so they're trying to force. So C9 say, this is our opportunity. They don't have their tank line there either, but they just dive on this composition that has the Aurelion Soul, the kickback, stopping them from actually getting in, and that's just one of those things where you're trying to force an advantage, but you can't really do it against this comp. And I think that that's just, once again, CLG having a really good draft.
Yeah, and as we award Huhi player of the game here on that Aurelion Soul, I'm going to come back to you with something that I've asked a million times before when seeing him play this champion. I mean, here, this is the best reminder that Huhi should not be allowed to play a champion like Aurelion Soul, but also, when will other mid laners start picking this champion up? It's clearly effective. Why not use it?
Yeah, I'm actually really unsure as to the answer. We saw some mid laners when Huhi was first bringing it out, kind of pick it up over in Korea, make it their specialty a little bit, but nobody's really done it as much as Huhi has. Guy is 7-2 right now, all time in the NALCS in terms of record on that champion. And you saw there, 40% of his team's damage. Disgusting. You'd think people want to pick it up. It's so hard to master, and if you actually just misstep, then you're going to be like wasting a whole bunch of your time, like losing the game for your team, but also losing your practice time, losing your solo queue time where you're trying to learn all these other champions. And Huhi just really jumped on that train early, and he's never kind of gotten off that bike where it's like he can just keep getting back up on it, right? It's like, haven't played it in 3 weeks, totally fine, get me Aurelion Soul.
Yeah, he kind of slots in on that champion, no problem every time. Final question, this is a big ticket one. On the outset of week 1 here for CLG, Dardoch in on the new roster. How do you feel about his performance and the teams as a whole?
I'm just excited about Counterlogic Gaming altogether. They just took down the team that got second place that we knew was coming in without some type of MSI hangover. They were able to do that.
And no roster change.
Exactly. With no roster change, and they were able to actually do that pretty, like I wouldn't say handily, but pretty good, right? It wasn't something where I'm like, oh man, that's awful.
Right.
But they were able to come back from a deficit of 1-0, and they were able to turn it around. So I'm excited because I think CLG is going to start looking like the old CLG, because in spring, it was like, oh man, this doesn't feel like my CLG team. This doesn't feel like the playmakers, the guys who want to go in, who want to play the map, who have those great level 1s. Now I think that identity's coming back. They're going to have more of those things they're throwing your way, those cheap jungle invades that people are like, oh, they caught me off guard. They're going to try to get every advantage they can. I'm looking forward to those plays from people like Aframu and Darshan.
I mean, yeah.
Dardoch.
I mean, Dardoch being a star player, you're going to look for him to define the play style of the team that he's on. We've got more league action coming your way. Up next, Xmithy makes his debut on Immortals as they face Phoenix 1. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Can they get him away with this one? Gonna go for the snipe, not gonna go for much more!
And he got it with the
He
W!
got it with, no, it was the dot from Talisman! The smite came early, and Talisman took the kill on the Drake! What a great sneak out of CLG. Suddenly, oh no, Contrast can see them. They've got Nightmare. He's gonna go for this body slam. Darshan tries to win the time. The kickback as well, and this time CLG secures it.
Just go.
Guys, up here.
He's up.
Okay. Careful, don't die.
I portal now.
I got
We have no reason to die. He's gonna die.
Let's do ban.
Oh yeah, boy.
Let's
Let's go.
The follow-up CC could be there to slow the explosive cast. The bot laner is down 1-0, and now Counter Logic Gaming looking to close it out. And Counter Logic Gaming take down Cloud9 in the first match of the split.